Long before the neon sign of the Krusty Krab lit up the streets of Bikini Bottom, there was simply a boy named Eugene Harold Krabs. Today, most know him as a money-obsessed crustacean, the proud, or perhaps paranoid, owner of the Krusty Krab. But like any tale rooted in greed and ambition, the story of Mr. Krabs begins in shadows, in the struggles of his youth, and in the chilling truths that shaped him into the figure we see today. We first learn about Krabs' early life in the episode Krusty Krab training video, which, while played for laughs, offers a disturbing glimpse into his origins. Before it was the most popular fast food restaurant in Bikini Bottom, the building that houses the Krusty Krab was a retirement home called the Rusty Krab. It was a place that eventually fell into Krabs' claws after his own string of failures and struggles. But to truly understand his obsession with money and the foundation of his character, we have to go back further, to his childhood. According to canon, Mr. Krabs grew up dirt poor. His mother, who appears in episodes like Midlife Crustacean, raised him in a small anchor-shaped house that still exists to this day. The home is not just a setting, it's a symbol of Krabs' lifelong attachment to both family and poverty. Stories from the show reveal that young Krabs was so impoverished that he could barely afford clothes. One flashback shows him wandering around wearing nothing but rags, forced to endure ridicule and shame from other children. These humiliations etched themselves into his shell, hardening him not only as a person, but as a businessman. But there's something unsettling about how Krabs responded to this poverty. Rather than simply striving to overcome it, he grew to worship money itself. In Friend or Foe, the episode that explores his youth alongside Plankton, we see the turning point of his life. As a young Krab, Krabs and Plankton were best friends, two outcasts who dreamed of success. Yet their dreams were different. While Plankton sought intelligence, invention, and recognition, Krabs sought wealth above all. Their partnership fractured the moment Krabs discovered the intoxicating power of a single penny. It was there, in those innocent days, that Eugene Krabs transformed into something darker, a creature who no longer saw money as a tool, but as the very essence of survival, happiness, and even morality. The Navy only sharpened these instincts. We know from multiple references that Mr. Krabs served in the Navy before opening his restaurant. His military experience is a running theme throughout the series. He often calls SpongeBob and Squidward soldiers rather than employees, and his office at the Krusty Krab is filled with naval memorabilia. But the question remains, what exactly happened to Krabs during his service? Canon doesn't give us many details, but what little we do know is chilling. In Shell of a Man, Krabs reminisces about his days in the Navy and reveals how brutal it was. He speaks of hardship, of becoming toughened by warlike conditions, and of losing the softer parts of himself in the process. When he returns home from the Navy, he's described as a changed man, someone who smelled the smell of money for the first time. What's unsettling is how these two aspects, his childhood poverty and his naval discipline, merged to create the Mr. Krabs we know today. Instead of seeing money as a necessity, he began treating it like a treasure, hoarding it with the same discipline a soldier reserves for survival. To Krabs, every coin has value beyond its worth. Every cent is not just money, it's security, it's comfort, it's power, but also, it's love. This is perhaps the creepiest part of Krabs' psychology, his tendency to treat money as if it were alive. In episodes like Clams, where he risks everything for a single dollar bill, or Born Again Krabs, where he sells SpongeBob's soul to the Flying Dutchman for 62 cents, it becomes clear that Krabs has an emotional connection with currency that borders on obsession. That obsession was planted in childhood, watered by poverty, and grown into a towering, unshakable devotion. But every obsession has its cost. For Krabs, that cost is his morality. As a child, his suffering could have turned him empathetic. He could have learned compassion from his struggles. Instead, he learned greed. Instead of sympathizing with the poor, Krabs came to fear poverty itself, as if it were a disease. This fear drives everything he does, from underpaying his employees to hoarding money in his mattress. His past became his monster, and the only way he knows how to fight it is by drowning himself in wealth. There's also the mythological aspect of his childhood to consider. Many fans have speculated about his relationship with his mother, Mama Krabs. She is overbearing, strict, and at times frightening in her control over him. In the episode Midlife Crustacean, we see a glimpse of their relationship when Krabs, in the midst of a midlife crisis, is scolded and belittled by her as though he were still a child. This suggests a man who never truly escaped his past. The mother who raised him in poverty still holds power over him, perhaps fueling his need to prove himself through wealth. It's possible that Mama Krabs represents the lingering voice of his childhood suffering, forever reminding him that he must cling to money if he wants to escape humiliation. When you put all of this together, the poverty, the navy, the broken friendship with Plankton, and the domineering presence of his mother, you get a picture that is darker than the light-hearted character most fans see. You get the image of a man whose life is defined by trauma, whose soul has been reshaped into something sharp, hard, and cold. It's not just greed, it's survival. But survival at a cost, his humanity, or, in his case, his crabness. And so, the origins of Mr. Krabs are not simply the tale of a poor boy who rose to riches. They are the tale of a boy who became trapped by his own fears, a man who turned to money not as a resource but as a god. The Krusty Krab, the empire he would later build, is not just a restaurant, it is a shrine to his obsession, born from childhood scars and naval discipline. Every plank of wood in its structure, every greasy Krabby Patty cooked within its walls, carries with it the weight of Mr. Krabs' past. If money is his god, then the Krusty Krab is his temple. And like any temple built on obsession, its foundations are far darker than they appear. Once upon a time, in the dim streets of Bikini Bottom, there stood a forgotten building. Its walls sagged with age, its windows were clouded, and its sign creaked with every soft current that passed through town. This was no restaurant, no palace of flavor. It was, in fact, a retirement home, an anchor-shaped dwelling known to the locals as the Rusty Krab. Within its halls shuffled weary fish, their lives already spent, their laughter long faded. It was a place of endings, not beginnings. But fate has a peculiar way of twisting shadows into opportunities, and for one crab, Eugene Harold Krabs, this place of decay would become the foundation of his empire. Krabs had just returned from his years at sea. The Navy had hardened him, but it had also left him hollow. He came home not as the triumphant hero one might imagine, but as a creature worn down by discipline, haunted by his years of poverty, and searching desperately for purpose. He wandered Bikini Bottom like a ghost, until one day his eyes fell upon the Rusty Krab. Its paint was peeling, its residents had been moved out, and the building sat abandoned, silent, waiting. Most saw nothing but rot. But Krabs saw potential. And more importantly, he saw a bargain. It is said that he bought the place for next to nothing, scraping together what little savings he had left. Some whisper that it was almost as if the building itself wanted him, that it had been waiting for a soul as hungry as his to claim it. Whatever the truth, the deal was struck. The Rusty Krab was his, and with a flick of red paint and a steady claw, the letter R was transformed into a K. The Rusty Krab became the Krusty Krab. A single stroke of paint was all it took to erase the past and announce the future. But the walls remembered. And perhaps, if one listens closely enough even today, they still carry the echoes of those who once lived there, now replaced by the sizzling of patties and the clink of coins. The birth of the Krusty Krab was no accident. It was the careful rebirth of a man who refused to stay beaten down by poverty. Krabs turned the old building inside out, carving away its gloom and reshaping it into a shrine to his one true love, money. Tables were bolted down, the grill was polished, and the cash register, his most prized possession, was placed at the very center of the restaurant, as though it were an altar. Customers would not simply eat here, they would pay tribute. The Krusty Krab was not designed to serve food, but to feed an obsession. And then came the menu. The Krabby Patty, the sandwich that would define an era. Where the recipe came from is a story for another time, wrapped in myth and secrecy. But what mattered in those early days was not its origin, but its effect. The citizens of Bikini Bottom could not resist it. With each bite, they were hooked, and with each coin they dropped into the register, Mr. Krabs' heart swelled with joy. The restaurant's first customers were not simply diners, they were converts, and the Krusty Krab was their chapel. Yet no temple can thrive without workers to uphold its rituals. For this, Krabs found his first employees, Squidward Tentacles, a reluctant cashier who would rather have been anywhere else, and soon after, SpongeBob SquarePants, the sponge who would become both the heart of the grill and the soul of the Krusty Krab itself. Their fates were sealed on that very first chaotic day, when a horde of hungry anchovies nearly drowned the restaurant in noise and hunger. It was SpongeBob, armed with his hydrodynamic spatula, who saved them all, whipping up patties with a speed that seemed almost supernatural. In that moment, Krabs knew he had found his perfect fry cook, not because SpongeBob loved money, but because he loved the craft. And Krabs, clever as always, knew how to use that devotion to keep his golden spatula turning. From that day forward, the Krusty Krab was alive. Its walls, once weary with the sighs of old age, now echoed with sizzling grease, with laughter, with the occasional shout of Squidward's misery, and, always, with the clatter of coins tumbling into Krabs's claws. The retirement home had been reborn, transformed into something far greater and far darker, a machine that turned hunger into profit and friendship into servitude. But let us not forget the uncanny nature of this transformation. The building itself bears a design not common for restaurants, but rather for traps. Its curved, wooden frame resembles a lobster trap, a cage built to lure in the unsuspecting, promising food and comfort only to lock them inside. Was this intentional? Did Krabs choose this look to symbolize his own philosophy, or was it simply fate? The answer may never be known, yet the metaphor is too perfect to ignore. Customers step inside, wallets in hand, and rarely leave without surrendering more than they intended. And still, the story deepens. For while the Krusty Krab thrived, a shadow grew across the street. The chum bucket, operated by Krabs' former friend Plankton, stood as a reminder of betrayal and rivalry. The two had once been inseparable, bound together by dreams of greatness. But where Krabs chose greed, Plankton chose invention. Their partnership ended in bitterness, and the birth of the Krusty Krab was also the birth of a feud that would never end. Every day that the Krusty Krab prospered was a day the chum bucket withered, and perhaps Krabs liked it that way. After all, what victory is sweeter than one enjoyed at the expense of an old enemy? Inside, however, the real legacy of the Krusty Krab was beginning to take shape, not in the form of recipes or rivalries, but in the rules that Krabs imposed. Employees learned quickly that the customer was never right. The money was. Every penny counted, every wasted second scolded. Even straws and napkins were rationed as though they were precious gems. The Krusty Krab was not just a workplace, it was a reflection of Krabs himself, disciplined like the Navy, stingy like his childhood, and always, always hungry for more. And so, what began as a decrepit retirement home became the beating heart of Bikini Bottom, a place where citizens lined up day after day for patties they couldn't resist, never questioning the strange devotion they felt for this restaurant. Parents brought their children, workers spent their wages, and everyone left with a full stomach but lighter pockets. They called it the Krusty Krab, but in truth, it was Eugene Krabs himself, expanded into walls and ceilings, a living extension of his greed, his fears, and his need for control. The birth of the Krusty Krab was not a simple story of entrepreneurship, it was a metamorphosis. A forgotten building shed its old skin and became something new, something powerful. And within its wooden frame, the spirit of Mr. Krabs grew roots that would dig deep into the very soul of Bikini Bottom. The citizens didn't just eat here, they gave themselves to it. And once you stepped inside, it was nearly impossible to break free from its hold. The tale of the Krusty Krab's beginning is more than just a business success. It is the tale of how one crab, scarred by poverty and hardened by the sea, turned a place of endings into a place of endless consumption. A trap disguised as a restaurant, a shrine built not for food, but for profit. And as we move deeper into its story, we will see that the Krusty Krab's walls hide more than just grease and laughter. They hide truths, dark truths, that even the happiest customers prefer not to see. Because in the end, the Krusty Krab was never just about burgers. It was about money, power, and the man who would stop at nothing to keep it. If the Krusty Krab is a temple and money is its god, then there is one sacred relic more important than all the rest: the Krabby Patty's secret formula. To the citizens of Bikini Bottom, the Krabby Patty is no ordinary sandwich. It is a miracle. Its scent drifts through the water like a siren's call, luring in customers from every corner of town. Its taste has been described as life-changing, irresistible, even addictive. For years, hungry fish have lined up outside the Krusty Krab's wooden doors, coins in hand, desperate for just one bite. And yet, for all the fame, for all the glory, no one, not even Squidward at the register, knows what goes into it. The recipe is sealed away, locked tight under Mr. Krabs' iron claw. The origin of this secret lies, as so many things do, in Krabs' complicated past. In the episode Friend or Foe, we learn that the formula was once at the heart of a partnership between Krabs and his childhood friend, Sheldon J. Plankton. Together, they dreamed of creating the perfect burger. They experimented, tested, failed, and tried again. But when success finally arrived, it tore them apart. The townsfolk loved Krabs' creation, but they spat out Plankton's chum. The two boys, once inseparable, became bitter enemies that day. And from the ashes of their friendship, the Krabby Patty was born. Some say the formula itself is nothing special, that the true magic lies in SpongeBob's devotion to cooking. Others whisper darker theories, that the ingredients are not only unusual, but disturbing. Fans have long wondered if the patties contain fish themselves, a cannibalistic twist hiding beneath the sesame seed bun. The show never confirms this, of course, but the absence of an answer is almost more unsettling. After all, why guard a recipe so fiercely if it were as simple as lettuce, tomato, and cheese? Mr. Krabs' paranoia surrounding the formula only deepens the mystery. In multiple episodes, we see him go to extreme lengths to protect it. He hides it in safes, buries it in bottles, and even keeps it under his mattress at times. His fear of losing it borders on mania. To Krabs, the formula is not just a recipe, it is his life, his legacy, his very soul. Without it, the Krusty Krab would crumble, and with it, he believes, he can live forever in wealth. But paranoia has a way of breeding enemies. Across the street, Plankton schemes day and night to steal the formula, launching robots, disguises, and endless plots, only to fail again and again. To some, his obsession is comical, but looked at from another angle, it becomes tragic. Plankton is forever chasing not just a recipe, but the friendship, the success, the respect that was stolen from him. And in guarding the formula so tightly, Krabs ensures that this cycle never ends, a rivalry as eternal as the ocean itself. Inside the Krusty Krab, the formula takes on a mythic presence. Employees speak of it in hushed tones. SpongeBob, the ever-loyal fry cook, never questions it. He does not need to. To him, the process of making patties is art, and the formula is sacred. He follows it blindly, never daring to peek at the scroll that defines his craft. Squidward, on the other hand, doesn't care. To him, the patties are greasy discs that only serve to keep him chained to the cash register. But even he knows better than to cross Mr. Krabs and ask about the recipe. Some secrets are too dangerous to touch. The customers, of course, are none the wiser. To them, the Krabby Patty is pure joy. They never stop to wonder what it is they're actually eating. They never question why it tastes so good. Instead, they return again and again, caught in a loop of craving and satisfaction, each bite pulling them deeper into the Krusty Krab's grasp. Like worshippers in a cult, they don't need answers, they only need another taste. And what of the formula itself? The times we have glimpsed it only raise more questions. In some episodes, it appears as a scroll with a list of ingredients. In others, as a single sheet of paper marked with cryptic writing. In Spy Buddies, Mr. Krabs refers to it as his most prized possession, treating it with more care than even his own daughter. In Plankton's Army, when Plankton finally manages to get his hands on it, he discovers that it simply reads, "A pinch of chum." Was this the real recipe, or just a cruel trick designed to torment him? Perhaps the strangest moment of all comes in The Great Patty Caper, where the formula is written not on paper, but on a frozen train ticket, locked away and pursued like a treasure map. Why so many contradictions? Why so many variations? Could it be that even Krabs himself has manipulated the story of the formula to keep others off the trail? That the truth is so horrifying, so unsettling, it must remain buried under layers of misdirection? And maybe that's the real creepy truth. The formula may not be about taste at all. It may not be about food. It may simply be about control. By keeping it a secret, Krabs ensures that no one else can ever challenge him. By dangling it in front of plankton, he ensures his enemy stays distracted forever. By obsessing over it, he ensures that he himself never faces the hollowness within. The formula is not just a recipe, it is a chain, binding every character in Bikini Bottom to the Krusty Krab story. Think of it this way. The Krusty Krab does not thrive because of its charm, or even its patties. It thrives because the citizens believe in the formula. They believe it is special, magical, untouchable. And belief is far more powerful than ingredients. Belief can turn a greasy fast food shack into a kingdom. Belief can keep a town fed on mystery for decades. And belief, when guarded by someone as ruthless as Mr. Krabs, can last forever. So, what is the Krabby Patty's secret formula? No one truly knows. And maybe no one ever will. But that, perhaps, is the point. Because sometimes the scariest truths are not the ones we uncover, but the ones we never can. And as long as the formula remains hidden, locked away in Krabs' claws, the Krusty Krab will remain not just a restaurant, but a mystery. A place where every bite comes with a question, and every customer walks away just a little more curious, a little more trapped. And so the legend continues, whispered across Bikini Bottom like an unsolved riddle. The Krabby Patty tastes like happiness. But behind the sesame seeds, behind the lettuce and cheese, lies something else. Something Mr. Krabs will never tell. Something he may have buried so deep, even he has forgotten the full truth. The Krusty Krab may be built on wood and nails, but it stands on secrets. And the greatest of those is the formula. A secret that has destroyed friendships, ignited rivalries, and ensnared an entire town. A secret that, to this day, remains the most guarded treasure under the sea. Greed is not a habit. Greed is not a flaw. For Eugene Krabs, greed is a heartbeat. It is the rhythm that guides every choice, every breath, every glimmer in his eye when a coin lands in his claw. To know the Krusty Krab is to know Mr. Krabs, and to know Mr. Krabs is to understand that his greed is not merely part of him, it is him. This hunger for wealth did not begin with the Krusty Krab. It was forged in childhood poverty, tempered by years in the Navy, and sharpened by rivalry with plankton. But once the Krusty Krab was born, that hunger grew unchecked. The building became more than a business. It became a vault, a funnel through which all of Bikini Bottom's wages and allowances could flow directly into Krabs' waiting claws. His obsession reveals itself in countless ways. To ordinary eyes, it may seem comical, a crab chasing a single coin down the street, a restaurateur charging customers for breathing the air inside his establishment. But peel back the humor, and you begin to see something unsettling. For Krabs, money is not just a symbol of success. It is his lifeline. He cradles it, speaks to it, even sleeps with it under his mattress. In Clams, he takes SpongeBob and Squidward on a fishing trip, not for relaxation, but because he accidentally lost $1. When a giant clam swallows it whole, Krabs enters a frenzy. His eyes bulge, his voice cracks, and his very sanity slips away. The coin becomes not just money, but a fragment of his soul, ripped away and devoured by the sea. He will risk life and limb to retrieve it. To Krabs, $1 is worth more than friendship, more than safety, more than dignity. And the truth grows darker still. In born-again Krabs, faced with death itself, he makes a bargain with the Flying Dutchman. Offered a chance at survival, he doesn't hesitate. He trades SpongeBob's soul for 62 cents. Not $62, not 62 treasures, merely 62 cents. That is the price he places on another being's eternal fate. In that moment, his greed surpasses obsession. It becomes damnation. And even when the Dutchman laughs and Krabs is given a second chance, the message is clear. In his heart, money weighs heavier than the lives of those who love him. We see this again in smaller moments, little flashes of his true self. He charges SpongeBob for using condiments. He fines Squidward for complaining. He rents out his own employees' belongings to customers. Every moment is an opportunity. Every opportunity a chance to scrape another penny from those around him. The Krusty Krab becomes not just a restaurant, but a laboratory of exploitation, where Krabs tests the limits of how far he can stretch the wallets of his workers and his customers. And disturbingly, he almost always succeeds. Yet what makes his greed truly terrifying is not just its intensity, but its blindness. Mr. Krabs loves money more than anything, but he does not love what money can buy. He rarely spends it, except to earn more. His house is modest, his meals simple. He hoards his coins, not to enjoy them, but to have them. He swims in them, caresses them, sings to them. They are not tools, they are companions. When Krabs counts his money, his eyes soften. His voice drops to a whisper, as though he is speaking to a child. He strokes the coins like a father strokes the cheek of his newborn. It is love, but a love twisted into something unnatural. And what of his daughter, Pearl? Does she not deserve that same affection? She is showered with trinkets and gifts, yes, but even those come cheap. In Wail of a Birthday, Krabs is exposed when his attempt at a party for Pearl turns into a disaster of penny pinching. Instead of giving her joy, he gives her shame. Even his daughter cannot escape the long shadow of his greed. The irony is sharp. In clinging to his money, Krabs loses the very thing that money was meant to provide: happiness for those he loves. Still, his greed continues, unchecked. In SpongeBob, You're Fired, he happily dismisses SpongeBob just to save a single nickel, blind to the devastation it causes his most loyal employee. In Penny Foolish, he becomes so obsessed with finding a single coin that SpongeBob claims to have seen. He descends into madness, digging through trash, chasing shadows, desperate to clutch even the smallest piece of currency. These stories reveal the true nature of his obsession. It is not about wealth in grand numbers, but wealth in every number. No coin is too small, no treasure too insignificant. To Mr. Krabs, all money is sacred. And perhaps that is the most chilling truth of all. He cannot stop. His greed is not a choice, but a curse. The more he has, the more he needs. The more he clutches, the more he fears losing. His mattress stuffed with cash may comfort him, but it also keeps him awake, listening for the creak of a thief in the night. His vault may glisten with riches, but it also weighs him down, trapping him in a cycle of obsession. Money has become not his servant, but his master. He is no longer a crab who owns wealth. He is wealth that owns a crab. Yet, for all its horror, his greed is strangely contagious. Citizens of Bikini Bottom line up outside his doors, paying whatever price he demands. They, too, become entranced by the myth of the Krabby Patty, willingly feeding Krabs' obsession with their own hard-earned coins. SpongeBob himself enables it, happily working long hours for little to no pay, his joy masking Krabs' exploitation. Even Squidward, though miserable, never leaves. They are all bound in Krabs' orbit, trapped in the gravitational pull of his greed. But what happens when greed is boundless? When nothing is ever enough? That is the question that haunts the Krusty Krab. For every dollar Krabs clutches, another slips away. For every treasure he guards, another is imagined. His greed is a hunger that cannot be sated, a thirst that cannot be quenched. And the more he feeds it, the emptier he becomes. The creepy truth of Mr. Krabs' greed is not simply that he loves money. It is that he cannot live without it. It is his air, his blood, his heartbeat. Without it, he would wither. And perhaps, in some twisted way, he knows this. Perhaps that is why he guards it so fiercely, why he sleeps with it under his mattress, why he hears its whispers in the silence of night. To him, money is not inanimate. It is alive. It speaks. It comforts. It commands. And so, the Krusty Krab is more than a restaurant. It is a feeding ground for Krabs' obsession, a place where his greed is not only sustained but celebrated. Customers laugh, employees toil, coins clink, and through it all, Krabs smiles, his claws tight around the register. But behind that smile, there is something darker, a shadow that grows with every penny he collects. For the truth is this: no matter how much he earns, no matter how much he hoards, Mr. Krabs will never be satisfied. His greed is endless, his hunger eternal, and in the end, it is not he who owns the money, but the money that owns him. Every kingdom has its rulers, its laws, and its subjects. And the Krusty Krab, for all its greasy charm and golden arches of fried patties, is no exception. At the top sits Mr. Krabs, the self-proclaimed king of his castle, claws wrapped tight around his treasure chest. And below him, chained not by iron but by contracts unspoken, work his two most loyal and most unfortunate subjects, SpongeBob SquarePants and Squidward Tentacles. To an outsider, it might seem like an ordinary job, a fry cook, a cashier, and a boss. But step closer, peer through the salty glass of the Krusty Krab's windows, and you will see something far more unsettling. You will see a workplace that thrives not on fair pay or mutual respect, but on exploitation, manipulation, and fear. SpongeBob SquarePants is the perfect employee, for Mr. Krabs, at least. He wakes with the sun, races to work with joy in his heart, and flips patties with a devotion most reserved for family or faith. His love for the Krusty Krab is pure, unshakable, and absolute, and that is precisely what makes him so vulnerable. In Help Wanted, the very episode that began the saga, SpongeBob proves his worth by single-handedly feeding a tidal wave of anchovies, and from that moment on, his fate is sealed. He is the fry cook forever, bound to the grill by love, unaware, or perhaps unwilling to admit, that his devotion is being used against him. Because for all his passion, SpongeBob is not rewarded with riches or recognition. In episode after episode, we see him work tirelessly for pennies or nothing at all. In SpongeBob, "You're fired, mister." Krabs dismisses him with a cold claw, trading loyalty for the chance to save a nickel. SpongeBob's heartbreak is deep, but Krabs shows no hesitation. To him, the boy is not an employee, not even a friend. He is a cog, easily replaced when the numbers demand it. Yet SpongeBob always returns. Why? Because he does not work for money. He works for love, and that is the cruelest trick of all. Mr. Krabs knows this, and he uses it. He dangles praise like bait on a hook, feeding SpongeBob's spirit just enough to keep him flipping patties day after day, never questioning why his paycheck is so thin, or why his loyalty is met with greed. Then there is Squidward Tentacles, the cashier. Where SpongeBob thrives on joy, Squidward suffocates in misery. To him, the Krusty Krab is not a temple, but a prison. He slouches behind the register, sighing, groaning, wishing he were anywhere else. And Krabs? Krabs knows. He sees Squidward's misery, and he exploits it all the same. And Can You Spare a Dime? When Squidward finally snaps and quits, Krabs shows not a shred of sympathy. He casts him out instantly, unwilling to spare even a dime for a worker who has given him years of service. Squidward is disposable, and Krabs proves it with every cold, uncaring word. But it goes deeper than mistreatment. Krabs plays his employees against each other. He knows SpongeBob will obey him blindly, and he knows Squidward resents them both. By keeping SpongeBob's optimism and Squidward's bitterness in constant collision, Krabs ensures neither will ever rise against him. One is too loyal, the other too broken. Together, they are trapped, feeding his empire without ever daring to rebel. The working conditions themselves are no less disturbing. The restaurant is often filthy, dangerous, and unkempt. In Graveyard Shift, Krabs forces his employees to work overnight, all to squeeze out a few extra coins, regardless of the toll it takes on their minds. The result is chaos, hallucinations, and terror, a haunted workplace born not of ghosts, but of greed. In Squilliam Returns, Squidward is humiliated as Krabs bends the truth to impress a wealthy rival, using his cashier as a pawn in his game of appearances. In every corner, the same pattern emerges. Employees are not people, they are tools. Even the uniforms they wear are symbols of this control. The paper hats, the stiff shirts, the name tags, these are not just clothing, they are costumes, designed to strip away identity. When SpongeBob ties his hat in the morning, he smiles with pride. But to Krabs, it is a reminder that the boy belongs to him, body and soul. Squidward, forced into the same attire, despises it, yet he wears it still, because he knows resistance will be punished. And punishments do come. Krabs fines his workers for mistakes, charges them for using the facilities, and even rents out their possessions for profit. In The Algae's Always Greener, he mocks Plankton's management style, yet reveals his own is no better. squeezing every drop of labor, every cent of value, from those under his claw. Even kindness is absent. When his employees suffer, Krabs shrugs. When they beg, he laughs. To him, their pain is irrelevant. Only the register matters. Perhaps the most unsettling part is how normalized it all becomes. SpongeBob does not see exploitation. He sees opportunity. Squidward does not see injustice. He sees inevitability. And the customers, lining up outside, see nothing at all. They eat their patties, sip their sodas, and never ask what price was paid behind the counter. In this way, the Krusty Krab is not only a restaurant, it is a machine that grinds joy and misery into profit, hidden in plain sight. And Krabs himself, he is proud of it. He calls SpongeBob and Squidward his crew, likening them to soldiers under his command. But in truth, they are not comrades. They are laborers, drafted into a war they never agreed to fight, a war for every last penny in Bikini Bottom. Krabs stands as the general, barking orders, pocketing spoils, while his soldiers suffer in silence. The creepy truth of Mr. Krabs' treatment of his employees is not just that he exploits them, it is that they let him. SpongeBob's blind devotion, Squidward's weary apathy, the town's endless appetite, all combine to give Krabs absolute power. And power, in his claws, is never gentle. It squeezes, it crushes, it consumes. So next time you picture SpongeBob happily flipping patties, or Squidward sighing behind the register, remember what you are really seeing. You are seeing workers bound by chains of love, chains of despair, and chains of greed. You are seeing lives sacrificed to feed the hunger of a single crab. The Krusty Krab may smell of sizzling patties and salty fries, but beneath that aroma lies something far more bitter, the sweat and tears of those who keep it alive. And as long as Mr. Krabs stands behind the register, claws clinking with coins, those chains will never break. Because in the Krusty Krab, employees are not family. They are not friends. They are not even workers. They are simply instruments of profit. And in Mr. Krabs' world, profit is the only truth that matters. Every business has its secrets. Some are harmless, recipes, trade tricks, marketing slogans. But the Krusty Krab is different. Behind its squeaky doors and greasy counters, there lies a web of practices so peculiar, so unsettling, that they reveal the true heart of its owner. To eat at the Krusty Krab is to step willingly into Mr. Krabs' laboratory of greed, where every coin is extracted, every loophole exploited, and every moment turned into profit. The first strange practice is his obsession with charging for everything. In the episode Imitation Krabs, he even designs a robotic decoy of himself to make sure customers never receive a single free item. Condiments, napkins, refills, nothing is safe from his price tags. There is a story told among Bikini Bottom residents of the time Krabs nearly charged a patron for breathing the air inside his restaurant. And though this is played as a joke, it is not far from the truth. To Mr. Krabs, the Krusty Krab is not a service, it is a toll booth. Every second spent inside must yield a profit. But perhaps stranger still is the inconsistency of his menu. Prices shift wildly depending on Krabs' mood. In Patty Hype, he bans SpongeBob's invention of colored patties, claiming it would ruin the brand. Yet when SpongeBob succeeds and steals his customers, Krabs swoops in to take control, slapping outrageous prices on the same product he once mocked. The hypocrisy is clear. Nothing matters but the profit. If it sells, it belongs to Krabs. If it doesn't, it is discarded. Even innovation is not safe from his claws. Then there are his bizarre promotional schemes. In As Seen on Television, when SpongeBob becomes famous for a commercial, Krabs exploits his employees' popularity without hesitation, selling merchandise, autographs, even personal appearances. He turns SpongeBob into a product, a living brand for the Krusty Krab, and never asks if SpongeBob himself wants this fame. To Krabs, his workers are tools, and tools must be used until they break. The same is true for his marketing stunts. In Graveyard Shift, Krabs extends business hours to 24 a day, forcing his employees into sleepless nights just to squeeze out a few extra pennies. The result is chaos, hallucinations, ghost stories, and a terror known as the hash-slinging slasher. Krabs, of course, cares nothing for his workers' suffering. His only concern is whether the register is ringing. When morning comes, he counts the coins with glee, blind to the trauma his greed has caused. But the strangest practice of all is the way he manipulates loyalty. Krabs knows that SpongeBob loves the Krusty Krab beyond reason, and he exploits this at every turn. In Big Pink Loser, SpongeBob works tirelessly to earn a simple award, while Krabs stands back, amused, knowing the boy's devotion costs him nothing. In SpongeBob, You're Fired, he dismisses SpongeBob without remorse, yet the sponge returns willingly, grateful for the chance to work again. Krabs does not need to spend money on loyalty programs or employee benefits. His manipulation is enough. His workers are trapped not by chains, but by emotions. And what of the customers? They too fall prey to his schemes. The Krusty Krab's so-called bargains are often scams in disguise. In Clams, Krabs takes SpongeBob and Squidward on a trip under the guise of bonding, only to reveal it was paid for by SpongeBob's wages. In Krusty Towers, he builds a hotel above the restaurant, boasting of luxury, only to charge ridiculous fees for every amenity. Even the bedsheets cost extra. He milks his guests dry, smiling all the while. Perhaps most sinister is how Krabs uses fear as a tool. In Imitation Krabs, he installs a robot double to ensure customers never cheat him. In Squilliam Returns, he humiliates Squidward by forcing him into roles he despises, simply to gain prestige from a wealthy rival. Krabs thrives on control, bending both employees and customers to his will. The Krusty Krab is not a restaurant. It is a theater where every player dances to Krabs' tune. And still, the strangeness deepens. Krabs is not satisfied with ordinary profit. He experiments, schemes, and bends reality itself to keep the coins flowing. In Krabbyland, he builds a theme park for children out of trash and broken rides, advertising it as paradise. The children flock, SpongeBob entertains them, and Krabs pockets their allowances. The park is dangerous, ugly, and cruel, but profitable. And in Krabs' world, that is all that matters. Even the architecture of the Krusty Krab reflects this truth. The building resembles a lobster trap, with one entrance and no clear escape. Inside, customers are funneled toward the counter, their choices narrowed until they spend. It is a structure designed not for comfort, but for capture. And Krabs stands at the end of that funnel, claws outstretched, ready to receive their offering. So what do these strange practices reveal? They reveal a man who sees no difference between friend and foe, between customer and worker. All are sources of money, and all must be drained. His paranoia, his schemes, his manipulations, they are not quirks. They are strategies, honed through years of obsession. To Krabs, every moment is an opportunity to profit. Every interaction is a transaction. Every smile hides a price tag. And yet, despite it all, the citizens of Bikini Bottom return. They line up day after day, willingly feeding the machine. They do not see the tricks, or perhaps they choose not to. The Krabby Patty tastes too good, its legend too powerful. And so, they hand over their coins, blind to the truth that the Krusty Krab is not serving them, it is consuming them. The creepy truth of Mr. Krabs' business practices is not that they are strange, it is that they work. His schemes succeed, his manipulations endure, and his greed grows ever stronger. The Krusty Krab thrives not because it is honest, but because it is cunning. It thrives because its customers cannot resist, and its employees cannot escape. And so the building stands, a trap baited with patties, a machine powered by exploitation, a shrine built on strange, unsettling practices that blur the line between comedy and cruelty. For Mr. Krabs, there is no line he will not cross, no scheme too bizarre, no price too high. As long as the coins keep falling into his claws, the Krusty Krab will endure, strange, sinister, and eternal. Because in the end, what is strange to us is simply business to Mr. Krabs, and in his world, business is always booming. Every story has a hidden chapter, a page that makes readers pause, tilt their heads, and whisper, "Something doesn't add up." For the tale of Mr. Krabs and his empire, that chapter is his family. More specifically, it is the question that has puzzled fans, unsettled viewers, and cast a shadow over the Krusty Krab for decades. Why is Pearl a whale? On the surface, it seems like a harmless quirk. In Bikini Bottom, species mingle freely. Fish live next to crabs, jellyfish float above clams, sponges chat with squids, and yet, this mystery is different. Pearl is not just another character. She is Mr. Krabs' only daughter, his pride, his responsibility, and his legacy. But she is also a whale, towering over her crab father, her footsteps shaking the ground. The contrast is stark, almost jarring, and the show never explains it. Pearl first appeared in Squeaky Boots, a young teenager obsessed with the things most teenagers crave: popularity, fun, and freedom. She squeals at sales, cries over ruined clothes, and dreams of being like the other kids. But her presence in the Krabs household is strange. She calls him Daddy. He calls her my little girl, but there is no mention of her mother, no story of how this family came to be. All we know is that Mr. Krabs is her sole guardian. This silence creates a mystery darker than any secret formula. Did Krabs adopt Pearl? Was she orphaned, left in his claws by fate? Or is there, somewhere out in the ocean, a whale who once shared her life with Krabs, gone without explanation? The show never says. The gap is deliberate, and that silence is loud. Theories swirl among fans like currents in the sea. Some believe Pearl's mother was a whale Krabs once loved, a relationship that ended in heartbreak or tragedy. Others speculate that Pearl was adopted, taken in by Krabs out of kindness, or perhaps guilt. And still others whisper that her mother's fate is tied to something much darker, a truth too unsettling for a children's cartoon to reveal. The show may never confirm, but the mystery itself lingers like a shadow in every scene they share. Yet, what we do see is enough to reveal another side of Mr. Krabs, one that is both touching and deeply disturbing. For all his greed, for all his obsession with money, Krabs loves Pearl. He dotes on her, protects her, and worries for her future. But even this love is twisted by his obsession. In Whale of a Birthday, when Pearl dreams of a lavish party, Krabs delivers something pitiful, cobbled together with penny-pinched scraps. He gives her cardboard decorations, cheap gifts, and stale cake, all to save a few dollars. Pearl, humiliated, breaks down in tears. Krabs loves her, yes, but his love is always measured against the weight of a coin. And it doesn't stop there. In Bossy Boots, Krabs hires Pearl to work at the Krusty Krab for the summer. She eagerly transforms the restaurant into a trendy hangout, complete with a new uniform for SpongeBob and a fresh look for the building. But Krabs quickly grows impatient, fearing her changes will cost him money. Instead of gently guiding her, he schemes to fire her, pushing SpongeBob to do the dirty work. It is a moment that reveals the chilling truth. Even his daughter is not safe from his cutthroat business practices. Still, there are moments of genuine warmth between them. In Mr. Krabs Takes a Vacation, Krabs sets aside his business, if only briefly, to spend time with Pearl. He tries, in his awkward way, to give her the childhood he never had. But even then, his paranoia about money seeps through, and the vacation quickly devolves into a fiasco centered on treasure and danger. For every tender moment, there is always a shadow. And Pearl herself? She carries her own burdens. Being the daughter of the richest crab in town comes with expectations. She longs to fit in with her peers, but she is often embarrassed by her father's stinginess. She wants to live like a normal teenager, yet her life is shaped by Krabs' obsession with savings and schemes. She stomps through the halls of their anchor-shaped home, frustrated, embarrassed, but still dependent on him. Her relationship with Krabs is not one of equals, it is one of survival. Love tangled with disappointment, family wrapped in mystery. The creepiness of their bond lies not just in the unanswered questions, but in the contrasts. Krabs, small and greedy, clutching his coins. Pearl, enormous and generous, yearning for freedom. Their very bodies reflect the imbalance. A father who cannot let go, and a daughter who cannot escape. Together, they form a family that feels both touching and tragic. A reminder that even in the brightest places, shadows linger. But the deepest shadow is still her mother's absence. The show has given us fragments, Krabs' devotion, Pearl's longing, the unspoken silence at the dinner table, but never the full truth. Who was she? Where did she go? Why is her name never spoken? The mystery is haunting, because it is so deliberate. The writers could explain it in a sentence. Instead, they leave it unsaid, letting the silence grow louder with every episode. And maybe that is the creepiest truth of all, because in stories, what is left unsaid often matters more than what is spoken. The missing mother, the unanswered question, the whale in the crab's home, they are gaps left for us to fill, and what we imagine is always darker than what could ever be shown. So, as we watch Pearl cheer at the mall, cry over a ruined dress, or stomp in frustration at her father's penny pinching, we are reminded of that silence. We are reminded that behind every squeal of joy and every shout of anger lies a question with no answer. Why is she here? Why is she his? The Krusty Krab may be built on secrets, but the greatest of them is not hidden in a safe or written on a scroll. It is hidden in plain sight, in the family of Eugene Krabs. The secret is Pearl, the daughter who should not be his, the child whose very existence whispers of a story untold. And until that story is revealed, the mystery will remain. A whale and a crab, bound by love, shadowed by silence, living in a home where every corner smells of grease and coins. The creepy truth is this: the greatest riddle of the Krusty Krab is not what's in the patties. It is who sits at the dinner table, and why. Legacies are not always golden. Some shine brightly, remembered with joy, while others creep like shadows, etched into the fabric of history with fear and silence. The Krusty Krab is more than a restaurant. It is more than a business. It is a monument, a structure that has wormed its way into the very heart of Bikini Bottom. And like all monuments, it has left behind a legacy, one far darker than its cheery nautical music and flashing open sign would have you believe. For decades, the Krusty Krab has stood as an immovable landmark, a place where families gather, children cheer, and workers hand over their paychecks just to taste a patty. It is loved, yes, but love can be dangerous when it blinds us to the truth. The citizens of Bikini Bottom are not free. They are tethered to the Krusty Krab, bound by its food, its myth, its promise, and in their devotion, they reveal the true power of Mr. Krabs' empire: control. Consider how many times we have seen the citizens riot when deprived of their patties. In just one bite, Squidward, after secretly indulging in a Krabby Patty, becomes so obsessed that he breaks into the restaurant in the middle of the night. He devours dozens in a frenzy, unable to stop, his body trembling with addiction. In Patty Hype, when SpongeBob introduces colored patties, the crowds abandon the Krusty Krab overnight, rushing toward the new flavor. Their loyalty shifts like the tide, dictated entirely by patties. And in Graveyard Shift, even in the dead of night, customers line up without hesitation, willing to eat at any hour. The Krabby Patty is not food, it is a spell. This spell is the true legacy of the Krusty Krab. It has created a town dependent on a single source of comfort, binding every citizen to Krabs' register. What happens if the patties stop? What happens if the doors close? The answer is chaos, and Krabs knows it. He knows that his empire is not fragile, it is invincible, because it thrives on need. The Krusty Krab is not just a restaurant. It is the beating heart of Bikini Bottom, and without it, the town would wither. But legacies are not built only on customers. They are built on rivals, too. And across the street stands the Chum Bucket, a grim reminder of the friendship that birthed both empires. Plankton has tried every scheme, every disguise, every invention, only to fail again and again. Each failure strengthens the Krusty Krab's legend. Each plot gone wrong paints Krabs not only as a businessman, but as a survivor. His legacy is defined not just by his victories, but by the failures of others. The Krusty Krab thrives because the Chum Bucket suffers, and in this twisted balance, Krabs' empire grows stronger. Yet this dominance has its shadows. The Krusty Krab has consumed more than just money. It has consumed lives. Squidward's youth drained away behind the register. SpongeBob's boundless energy spent endlessly over the grill. Even Pearl, trapped in a family that measures love by pennies. The Krusty Krab's legacy is not only patties and laughter. It is also exhaustion, disappointment, and broken dreams. Every coin in the register is paid for with something greater: time, dignity, hope. And still, the town worships it. Parents bring their children there for birthdays, teachers take their classes there on field trips, and workers stop by after long shifts. The Krusty Krab has become not just a restaurant, but a community hub. Its red-roofed, trap-like shape looms in every memory, etched into the lives of every citizen. The legacy of the Krusty Krab is inescapable, because it is everywhere. Even the law bends to its power. In Krusty Krab training video, the entire town embraces Krab's business practices without question. In Krusty Towers, his hotel scheme collapses, but no punishment follows. In SpongeBob, "You're fired," he dismisses his loyal worker without cause, yet the town takes his side. Again and again, the message is clear. The Krusty Krab is untouchable. Its legacy shields it from consequences, allowing crabs to grow greedier with each passing year. But perhaps the darkest piece of its legacy is the way it overshadows every other dream in Bikini Bottom. Squidward longs to be an artist, a musician, a man of culture. Yet he is chained forever to the cash register, his talents wasted. SpongeBob dreams of adventure, of jellyfishing and boating. Yet he is tied forever to the grill, his joy turned into endless labor. Even Plankton, the genius inventor, is defined only by his failure to surpass the Krusty Krab. Every character's story bends, eventually, toward the restaurant. Their lives are shaped not by their own choices, but by Krab's empire. The Krusty Krab has become their destiny. And what of its reputation? To the citizens, it is beloved. To us, watching closely, it is terrifying. A building that began as a retirement home, reborn as a fast food giant, now rules an entire town. Its walls carry whispers of exploitation, addiction, and control, and yet it is adored. That is the true legacy of the Krusty Krab, the ability to mask cruelty with comfort, to disguise greed as generosity, to turn darkness into delight. So, when we speak of the Krusty Krab's legacy, we must speak carefully. It is not the story of a simple restaurant. It is the story of a trap that caught an entire town. It is the story of a greedy crab who turned poverty into power, rivalry into dominance, and patties into chains. The Krusty Krab's legacy is not food, nor family, nor fun. It is control. And legacies like that do not fade. They linger, long after the grease has cooled, long after the coins have been counted. The Krusty Krab is not just a chapter in Bikini Bottom's history. It is the history. Every life, every dream, every coin leads back to its doors. The creepy truth is this: long after Mr. Krabs is gone, the Krusty Krab will remain. Its walls will stand, its patties will sizzle, its cash register will sing, and the town will keep coming, drawn like moths to the flame, unable to break free. Because some legacies are not built to inspire, they are built to trap. And the Krusty Krab's legacy is a cage, one that still rattles with coins, laughter, and the echo of lives consumed. Every greedy man leaves behind a trail of misdeeds. Some are petty, some are laughable, but some, when examined closely, become crimes against decency itself. Mr. Krabs is no ordinary miser. He is not simply a crab who loves coins. He is a creature willing to sacrifice dignity, morality, and even the souls of others if it means adding a few cents to his register. His crimes are not written in ink on legal scrolls, but in the memories of those he has hurt. And those memories paint a picture darker than the ocean's deepest trench. One of his greatest offenses comes in born-again Krabs. Stricken with food poisoning from eating a moldy patty he refused to throw away, Krabs lies on death's door. The Flying Dutchman himself arrives, prepared to take his soul. But when given a chance at redemption, Krabs proves where his loyalties truly lie. He is offered a bargain, his life, in exchange for SpongeBob's soul. Without hesitation, without even a pause, he agrees. SpongeBob, his most loyal employee, his surrogate son, the very soul of his restaurant, sold away for 62 cents. It is one of the most chilling moments in the series. The price of a life measured in loose change. And yet, even after being spared, even after SpongeBob forgives him, Krabs learns nothing. He returns to his old ways, his claws clutching tighter than ever around his money. This is perhaps the greatest crime of all. Not just that he sins, but that he never repents. Another crime is his exploitation of SpongeBob himself. In SpongeBob, "You're fired." Krabs dismisses him with cold efficiency, eager to save a single nickel in wages. SpongeBob's heart breaks, his spirit shatters, but Krabs does not care. The boy who built his empire, who kept his customers loyal, is tossed aside like yesterday's chum. And yet, when SpongeBob inevitably returns, Krabs welcomes him back, not with apology, not with gratitude, but with the smug satisfaction of a man who knows his trap will never fail. To Krabs, loyalty is not a gift, it is a weapon. His cruelty toward Squidward is no less severe. In Can You Spare a Dime? When Squidward finally has enough and quits, Krabs hurls accusations, calling him a thief, refusing to offer even the smallest kindness after years of service. Squidward, broken and homeless, nearly starves before SpongeBob takes him in. Krabs shows no remorse. To him, Squidward is disposable, a piece of machinery that stopped working, easily discarded. His crime here is not theft, but indifference, the cold heart of a boss who sees no humanity in those beneath him. And what of his customers? They, too, have been victims of his schemes. In Krabbyland, Krabs builds a carnival for children out of trash, advertising it as paradise. The rides are dangerous, the attractions a scam, and the parents furious. But Krabs cares nothing for their disappointment. His only concern is the stack of coins in his claws, the allowances drained from wide-eyed children too innocent to know better. It is not just greed, it is predation. In Clams, he risks the lives of both SpongeBob and Squidward in pursuit of a single dollar swallowed by a giant clam. His obsession drives him into madness, ignoring the pleas of his companions, fixated only on reclaiming his lost coin. This is not the behavior of a responsible man, nor even a rational one. It is the madness of addiction, the crime of valuing money above life itself. But perhaps his most haunting crime is the way he treats money as more important than family. Pearl, his daughter, is often left embarrassed, humiliated, or neglected because of his stinginess. Her birthday parties are cheap disasters, her gifts laughable. In Wail of a Birthday, she cries, not because she is ungrateful, but because she simply wants her father to care more about her than about his coins. And yet, again and again, Krabs chooses money over love. He may not strike her, he may not abandon her, but in many ways, his neglect is worse. It is the crime of a parent who loves something else more than his child. Even strangers are not safe from his claws. In The Algae's Always Greener, he swaps lives with Plankton, experiencing the misery of another man, only to return to his old self with relief, never pausing to reflect on the damage he inflicts daily. In Krusty Towers, he creates a hotel above the Krusty Krab, charging ludicrous fees for every amenity, trapping guests in an endless spiral of charges. The rooms are poor, the service worse, yet the bills soar. His hotel is not hospitality, it is entrapment. And then there are the smaller, quieter crimes, the moments that slip by unnoticed, but when added together, reveal the darkness within. Charging SpongeBob for condiments, forcing Squidward to wear humiliating uniforms, selling out his own privacy, his own pride, his own dignity, all for a few extra coins. These are not crimes of necessity, they are crimes of character. They reveal a man so consumed by greed that no line, no matter how sacred, cannot be crossed. What makes all this creepier is how normalized it is. In Bikini Bottom, Krabs' cruelty is accepted. The townsfolk laugh, the employees sigh, and life continues as usual. But behind the comedy is a chilling truth. They are complicit. They let him get away with it. They allow his crimes to stand, because the Krabby Patty tastes too good, because the myth of the Krusty Krab is too powerful. And so his greatest crimes are buried, forgotten, hidden beneath layers of grease and laughter. But we cannot forget. We cannot ignore that Mr. Krabs has sold a soul for cents, exploited children for allowances, starved his workers, and neglected his daughter. We cannot ignore that he values money above life, love, or morality. These are not quirks. They are not jokes. They are crimes, written not in law, but in the suffering of those around him. And yet, the creepiest truth of all is this: he does not see them as crimes. To Mr. Krabs, every act is justified, every scheme excusable, every cruelty necessary. He does not wake at night haunted by guilt. He sleeps soundly, a atop a mattress of cash, whispering to his coins as though they were companions. He is not tormented. He is content. That is the true horror. A man who sins and regrets may be saved. A man who sins and feels no guilt is lost forever. And Mr. Krabs is lost, wandering a sea not of water, but of money, forever grasping, forever clutching, forever blind. So when you laugh at his antics, when you smile at his penny pinching, remember the darker truth. Behind the humor lies a trail of broken spirits, lost souls, and crimes too great to ignore. Mr. Krabs is not just a greedy crab. He is a thief of dignity, a seller of souls, a man whose crimes are measured not in stolen goods, but in stolen lives. And as long as the Krusty Krab stands, those crimes will continue, hidden behind the sizzle of patties and the chime of coins. The Krusty Krab sits quietly at the center of Bikini Bottom. Its wooden frame creaks in the tide, its windows glow warmly, and its doors swing open to endless lines of hungry fish. To the casual eye, it is a place of comfort, of laughter, of sizzling patties. But beneath the cheer lies something darker. The Krusty Krab is not just a restaurant. It is a trap, a machine, a monument to greed so powerful that it has shaped lives, consumed dreams, and haunted the very soul of a town. We have seen its origins, a retirement home twisted into a shrine of profit. We have explored its secrets, the formula guarded with paranoia, a recipe that enslaves more than it feeds. We have watched its master, Mr. Krabs, the miser who would trade souls for cents, who loves coins more than his daughter, who exploits his workers without hesitation. We have traced its legacy, an empire of addiction, a chain that binds every citizen of Bikini Bottom to its counter. And now, at the end of our tale, we must face the question that lingers like a shadow over every frame. What is the Krusty Krab, truly? Perhaps it is a mirror, a reflection of one man's soul. Krabs, scarred by poverty and hardened by the Navy, poured himself into the walls of his restaurant. His greed, his paranoia, his obsession, they live in every plank of wood, every tile of the floor, every patty flipped on the grill. The Krusty Krab is not separate from him, it is him. Customers do not eat at a restaurant. They eat at Krabs himself, consuming his hunger, his cruelty, his endless need, and in doing so, they become part of it, feeding the cycle with their coins, their time, their lives. Or perhaps it is something worse. Perhaps the Krusty Krab is a parasite. It feeds on Bikini Bottom, draining the town of money, energy, and spirit. It consumes Squidward's hope, SpongeBob's youth, Pearl's joy. It lures citizens with the promise of happiness, only to bind them tighter in its greasy web. The more they eat, the more they return. The more they return, the stronger it grows. And at the center, Mr. Krabs sits like a spider, pulling the strings, unaware that he too is trapped, that the parasite owns him as much as he owns it. The true horror of the Krusty Krab lies not in ghosts or monsters, but in how ordinary it all seems. Greed is not dramatic. It does not roar or strike with claws. It creeps. It whispers. It convinces you that it is normal. Customers laugh. Employees sigh. Coins clink. And beneath it all, lives are drained away, one penny at a time. That is the genius of the Krusty Krab. It hides its cruelty behind comfort. It turns exploitation into comedy. It makes horror taste like happiness. Think of SpongeBob, smiling at the grill. He is the perfect fry cook, devoted, tireless, pure of heart. And yet, his devotion is his curse. He cannot see the chains wrapped around him, forged by Krabs' manipulation. He will work until the end of time, never questioning, never escaping. Think of Squidward, slumped behind the register, his dreams of artistry fading into smoke. He knows he is trapped, yet he lacks the strength to leave. His soul withers day by day, sacrificed to a job he despises. Think of Pearl, humiliated by her father's stinginess, desperate to be free, yet forever tied to the anchor-shaped house where greed rules. These are not just characters. They are victims. And then, think of the customers, the endless crowds who riot for patties, who line up even at midnight, who cannot resist the taste of the formula. They are not patrons. They are addicts, bound to the Krusty Krab as surely as SpongeBob and Squidward. The restaurant does not serve them, it owns them. They laugh, they eat, they leave lighter in pocket and heavier in spirit. And they always return. This is the horror, that a simple fast food shack could consume so much, that it could become not just a business, but a way of life, a destiny that swallows everyone in its orbit. The Krusty Krab is eternal, not because it serves food, but because it serves greed, and greed never dies. Mr. Krabs himself is proof of this. He has money beyond measure, a restaurant adored by all, a legacy that stretches across the ocean, and yet he is empty. His mattress stuffed with cash does not comfort him. His vault of gold does not bring him peace. He is restless, paranoid, forever grasping for more. His greed has not given him freedom. It has given him chains. He is not the master of the Krusty Krab. He is its prisoner. The very monster he created now owns him, body and soul. So what is the Krusty Krab? It is a monument to hunger. A hunger that cannot be fed. A hunger for money, for control, for security. A hunger born in childhood poverty, sharpened by rivalry, fed by exploitation, and never satisfied. Its walls are not wood, they are ribs. Its lights are not lamps, they are eyes. Its register is not metal, it is a heart, beating greed into every corner of Bikini Bottom. And the creepiest truth of all? We laugh, we watch, we eat, we accept, because the Krusty Krab is familiar. It feels safe. It feels normal. We tell ourselves it is just a restaurant, just a cartoon, just a joke. But deep down, we know better. Deep down we feel the unease, the discomfort, the whisper of truth. The Krusty Krab is not just fiction, it is reflection. It is the shadow of our own world, where greed hides in plain sight, disguised as comfort, as necessity, as happiness. And so, the tale ends as it began. The Krusty Krab stands, its doors open, its grill sizzling, its register clinking. SpongeBob flips, Squidward sighs, Pearl stomps, Krabs laughs. The citizens line up, coins ready. Life goes on. The horror continues. The true horror of the Krusty Krab is not that it exists, it is that it will never end.